Hi, my name is Imtiaz. I'm a Dynamics 365 developer based in the Midlands. Today I'm going to show you how we used Microsoft Forms and the various elements of the Power Platform to address a community need during this COVID crisis. So basically we used Power Apps and Power Automate to allow us to run congregational prayers for the community, which meant that we could allow people to register for the events and get notifications and also checking people in and ensuring that they are adhere to the strict guidelines for the social distancing. So who am I? As I mentioned earlier on, my name is Imtiaz. I'm a Dynamics 365 developer. I've been working with CRM since version 4, so I've seen a lot of changes. So since CRM 11, and then the big change from CRM 11 to 2013, and then for 15, 16, CRM Online, Dynamics 365, and now the Power Platform. Okay, so before I share the application with you end to end, what I'm going to do is I'm quickly go through and explain what the reason why we actually came up with the need to develop an application. We're going to go through just an outline of what the requirements were, and then the factors that we took into account to determine the best platform for us to develop this solution. Then I'll quickly go through the various elements of the solution. And then I'll quickly give you a demo end-to-end of how the solution works and the product works. So why did we feel the need to develop a solution? Well, as we know, 2020 has been quite a different year for us all. COVID-19 came in March or just before March and placed the world into a lockdown. And it forced many of us to adapt and change in the way that we live and work. It had a major impact on families, businesses, organizations. Education was affected. It also affected hospitals and medical practices. As we all know, the NHS had done a fantastic job. And then sports and entertainment, it affected care homes. Families couldn't go and visit their loved ones in the care homes. It also affected communities. And when I say communities, I mean the religious activities, people couldn't get together to enjoy the festive occasions like Easter and Diwali, and being a Muslim, we had Ramadan came and we couldn't pray in congregation. Really different this year. So then July 15th, the government announced that the places of worship could reopen for congregation prayers, providing that they adhere to the social distancing guidelines laid out by the government. Now, even though the government had given us the go-ahead to reopen for congregational prayers, a lot of people in the community felt uncomfortable going in and praying in a confined space. Now, one of the other things that was happening was Eid al-Adha was coming. So a few of us in the community got together and decided that we will try and hold the congregational prayers in an open space. Okay, so what requirements? I guess when we looked at the requirements, our first and biggest question was, is this going to be a one-time event? Or are we going to create more than one event? And I think once people had seen the first one, and they felt that we're done in an efficient way and in a safe way, and we adhered to the social distancing rules and guidelines, that they would probably ask us to say, look, can we do another event? Can we do another event? So we looked at the second option, and so to allow us to manage multiple events, we decided that these were the minimum requirements. So the first thing we needed was a means to be able to record somewhere where we can record the information about the events, about the attendees, about the registrations, about the confirmations and the communication that's sent out. We also then needed a means for people to be able to register for the event. We needed, and once they have registered, we want to be able to then send confirmation back to them to say, thank you so much, you've registered. We will notify you in due course about your seat. And then again, as I mentioned, allocation. So we need a process that will go and find the next available seat and assign it to the attendees. And then finally, we needed on the day of the event a means to be able to check people in. So we want to confirm that yes, they are the people who've got seat number 12, and that they've got the face mask, they've got their prayer mat, they've got their the bag, and we also want to capture their temperature, you know. And then we check them in. So we know the aim of this was, so at any point we knew who attended the event, where they sat, and then if within the 14 days after the event, if somebody had the signs of COVID or one of the family members did, they could notify us. We can then clearly identify that this person was sitting in place X, and and then just to basically let them know that, you know, please go into isolation or get yourselves checked out. So I guess when we look at development options, if we look at traditional development, when we look at the model, I guess most people would say that we need some sort of a database to hold the information about the entities, the events, the attendees. So we'll probably look at SQL or MySQL or Oracle. For the registration, we can probably have a web client or a mobile client or form, or some sort of a form. For confirmations, we'll probably want to send back an email or an SMS. And then we need some sort of a process that basically goes and finds the next available seat for the event and then assigns it to the attendee, and then also then sends back a confirmation to them to say, you know, thank you so much, this is your seat number. On the day of the event, we need some means, because we're doing this in an open space, ideally some sort of, we could do this on a website, but ideally a mobile application would be best, because then we're not having to carry a laptop or a tablet with us. We can just have a mobile device that we can just check people in, confirm who they are, and then check them in. So I guess the factors that we've got to take into account is that with the traditional approach is that, you know, it's multiple technologies and multiple platforms, and do we have the skill set available for us to develop this solution? We also need to have integration between the different various parts of the application, you know, from the capturing of the registration information to sending out the notifications. And then to provide this solution, how much time would it take? If we did manage to develop a mobile application, we'd have to submit that to a Play Store or an Apple Store, and then wait for the approval, which might take a week to 2 weeks. And we felt that this was not an option, because we only had like 5 to 7 days to deliver this solution and have it ready to manage the event. So I guess the big question is how we're going to do this. Now, because I've worked with Dynamics 365 and CRM and the Power Platform, we decided to deliver the solution using the various elements of Office 365 and the Power Platform. So for the model, we're going to use Dynamics 365. So we're going to create a model-driven application where we define the entities to hold the events, the attendees, the comms, and the seating, the reservations. For the registration, we're going to use Microsoft Forms. So I'm going to show you how I used Microsoft Forms to manage multiple events. So the one form to manage multiple events. We're going to use Twilio to send the messaging, SMS messages to the attendees, and also going to use email as well. Then for the allocation, we're going to use Power Automate to be the workflow engine that's going to basically go through, find the available seats and assign them to the attendees, and then also to send the notifications. Finally, we're going to create a Power App that's going to allow us to check people in on the day of the event. Obviously, because we're doing this in an open space for the first one, we don't want to be walking around with a tablet or a laptop, you know. So we can do this on a mobile application. Okay, so this is the first part of the solution, which is the model-driven application in Dynamics 365. So basically, you can see there's a dashboard that gives us an overview of the events, any attendees that are waiting to be allocated a seat. So, and you can add charts to suit your needs, really. Then we've got attendees. So these are the people that are attending the event, who have registered for the events. Then we've got the events, which I'll come back to in a few minutes, and then we've got event venues. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an event, and then I'm going to show you how we use that event in a form and allow people to register for that. So there's two ways of actually creating an event, and I'll show you. If you do multiple events of the same type, then I've got a clone feature that basically replicates. So if I go in here, we'll create, say, test event 1. And we'll say the event date is 27th. We'll give it a time, and we'll say 11 o'clock, and we'll set the venue to that one. The form URL I've not implemented at the moment. It's something I've got some ideas on. The auto assign seat feature, if set to true, basically gives automatically, when people register for the event, they will automatically be given the next available seat. But because we have families attending, people normally like to sit together, so we do it in a manual way. Allocated seats, these are the number of seats that are available for the event, so we'll say 10. The events, I'll cover this in a minute. Message settings, basically, so these are to do with the confirmations that are sent back, the notifications. So we've got an email notification and SMS message notification. So here you can set, the greeting, you can set the salutation, registration message, reserved message, cancellation message, final message, and parking and additional stuff there. So here, same again, you've got your greeting. Now, one thing to note is when you use messages in here, if you are using something like Twilio, which we are, try and keep these messages to a minimum, but otherwise the cost of your messages is going to go through the roof. I had a message where I was sending a standard message cost 4p, but then it jumped to 26p because I added too much stuff in there. And one more thing is, if you're using any other script other than English, so I had Arabic script in there in the email, and then I copied it across on here. I was paying 26p per message, which was quite a lot, to be honest, because it treats it as a media message. And I'll show you that in a few minutes. So I'm going to just go ahead and just create this event. So do save and close. So okay, you can see that it's assigned it the next number in the next event code, and it's given the name. So the test event 1, Sunday 27, blah blah blah, 10 allocated seats, 10 available, and it's in the state of registration. Okay. The other way you can create an event is to take an existing event and clone it. So this one, if I give an example here, so let's say I need to, as you can see, this information is quite easily done, but it's the way it is here. So you can see I've added Arabic script there, and this message is quite long. I don't want to have to keep typing this every single time, so I put in a clone feature that allows us to take this event and create a new one from it. So again, like I said, most of the messages that are sent back and notifications are by email, because the SMS can be quite expensive. So if I go and clone this, I will say new event name is test event 2. We'll give it a new date. We'll say the 28th. We'll say at 10 o'clock. Venue, we'll say it's the same place, and this one's got, we'll say 14 seats. Okay, actually no, better not do that. Let's do that. 9. Okay, so what I'll just clone the event, and then I'm going to save and close. So what will happen is it will create a new event. Okay, so you can see here it's created a new event called test event 2, and when we go into it, it's basically got the same information as the one that we cloned. Now, one thing I didn't show you in the previous one is the events. So basically these are all, so when people register for the events and the auto assign is set off, the users will end up in here. And these are, so when we said they got 10 seats, so it basically goes through and creates the seats. So as we register people or allocate a space, they will then be assigned the next available seat. So what we'll do now is I'm going to go through, I'm going to actually add this second one. So what I need to do is I need to copy this code, SAL1024. If I go to my voice of the customer, so this is my form, as you can see, and the way I do manage multiple events is I've got a field called select event, and in there I use radio buttons, and so in here I will add a new option and I'll post that code. So my process will pick up this code and then link it up to an event. I wish there was a way to automate this, but there isn't, and if somebody does know of a way, then please let me know. Test event 2. Okay, so that will do for the moment. So just to show you how this works. Preview. So you can see we have now got the event code, and then the event. So how do you, so the form says, do you have a registration code? If we say yes, and then it basically asks you for the registration ID, and this is the code. And if you say no or unsure, then it basically asks you your first name, last name, email address, and then mobile number, and then the I consent to have my information stored. If I show you this on, so actually let's do one here. So let's do one. Do you have a registration ID? Actually, no, I don't. Do you need a chair? We have people who are, quite old, and they can't sit on the floor, so we want to give them a chair, but I don't need one. So we'll say test, so user 04. So let's see, I'll put my email address in tsh, oops, sorry, okay, and then we'll say for one. Okay, do you consent for the GDPR options? Yes, I do. And then I do a submit. Okay, so basically it tells me Jazakallah khair, will notify you your seat number. Please remember to new du'as. Okay, so what happens in the background is if I go to my dash, so as you can see, when we go to dashboards, this is appeared here. So it indicates that test user 4 is waiting to be assigned a seat. Now if I go back to events, and I go to test event 2, you can see it's basically I've got a user waiting to be assigned a seat. Okay, so I can then assign the seat from here or through the Power App, and I'll show you that as well. So if I open this up, and all I do basically is in here, I say it's a reserve a seat. Okay, I say save and close. So as you can see now, it's basically assigned the first seat to that person. Okay, and what will happen is the user will get back an email to say that they've been assigned. They should have had an email when they registered as well. So if I show you that, so when people registered, basically they got this message: registered test event 2, and they said, and this is the information that was picked up from those messages. So Jazakallah khair, blah blah blah. Please note these are your requirements. More information if you want on the social distancing. Parking is limited, and then this is the registration ID that I was talking about. So next time I register for an event, I can actually use this ID to register for the event that I want. And then once a seat has been assigned, they will get the following message, which says reserved seat 01, test blah blah blah, and it's the same information again. So we keep telling them, that these are your minimum requirements, that you must have these, and this is the information that we will check on the mobile application when we check them in. You can see also it gives them the venue details and the seat number that they've been allocated. If I wanted to release a seat, so let's say the person rang up and said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't need that seat anymore, I can actually go into this seat and go to admin, and I'll say I want to release the seat. So do save and close. So as you can see, he's now been released, that seat's been released, and he's gone back into a pending state. Okay, so what we're going to do now is show you the same thing but from a mobile device. Okay, so the first thing is finding the link. So we normally send out a message. So you go in here, and you can see this is the message that we sent out, and as part of that we send the link for the form. So this is where we get the people to register. So when they open the form, you'll see our event is there. So if we're going to sound there, is I have a code. So I'm going to say, yes, I have a registration code. So I put that in, which is, so I'm going to say, do you need a chair? No. Do you consent? I do. And then submit. We go back to the events. And events, you can see we'll have test user 1, 200923X4C27. Now if I go to my events, my emails, in the top I should have, here we go, registered for event. So register test event 2, Monday 28, Assalamu alaikum, test user 1, Jazakallah khair for registering, and then they have the same message. So what we'll do now is if we go to the app, So if I now go to the Power Platform app, which we created, so here is prayer in time. So when we open, it gives us first. So at the top it's just a banner. So we've got three sections. We've got attendees, we've got events, and then we've got a venue. Same as the model-driven apps. So when I go into the attendees, we have a list of names and stuff. So I can then search for people here. So it's Imtiaz. So it comes up, and then I have the option to I can call Imtiaz straight away, or I can open that up. And then from there I have the option to either call them, which as you can see brings up the native functionality. I can send a message to say hi. Going back to the events, here we've got obviously user 01. So I can either go in here and I say reserve and then click, or I can go into the event. And when I go to the events, I can see all my upcoming events that are open or registering. And I can also then see my past events. So when I go into my past events, I can see how many people came and attended. So once they've attended, it goes red and the event is obviously closed. And then if I go to the upcoming events, and I'm going to test event 2. So I have a user I need to assign a seat to, so I can go into here and I say test 02 here. And do you want to assign, reserve? I say I do, and then we say yes. Okay, so that's disappeared from there. So if I now go into the event, you can see that the second spot has assigned to test user 01. Again, if I find this person doesn't want to, he decided to cancel, I just click on the pen and say just release, and then click OK, and that would just release the spot. If I go back to the emails, he should have got an email to say, here we go, reserved seat number 2. Okay, and that is the same for, when you do the SMS messaging. So if I go into messaging, this is the message that you would get. This is the SMS message, and this cost me 4p. So here you can see I've taken out the Arabic script, to Imtiaz, blah blah blah. This is your seat, the venue seat number 2. Please ensure, yeah. So then the final thing to do is to check people in for the event. So if I go in, let's say we're going to check in number test user 04. So we'll say, yes, what's your name? It's test user 4, seat number 1. Okay, temperature, we'll use the temperature gun. So 37.4. Do you have a face mask? Yes, you do. Do you have a prayer mat? Yes, you do. Shoe bag? Yes, you do. And then what we do is we say we checked in, and then we say okay. So then what happens is they change to attended. So now that we know that person has attended, we will then, one of the attendees, the marshals, will take that person and take them to the spot where they will be seated. And that's really it. To be honest, is served, as you can see, we've done so many events. Okay, so that's the end of the solution. I hope you found it useful. As you can see, we used various parts of the Power Platform to deliver a solution virtually within no time. And it goes to show that if you know exactly what it is that you need and your requirements are clear, and then you can virtually come up with the solution in no time. So thank you once again for watching, and if you have any questions, then feel free to contact me, and my contact details are here. I'm also on LinkedIn, and also attend the CRMUG meetings in Birmingham. So if you're there, well, I'd love to meet you. And if we have our sessions online, then I no doubt I'll probably bump into you then.